Hello, loves. March 11th, 2026 at 5 p.m. exactly. And forgive my appearance. It takes a lot of makeup to make me look this haggy-baggy and raggy. But I'm 63, so I'm allowed to be. Okay, that's just me. You can call me crazy. But I had an epiphany, and it came from Jimi Hendrix today. It did. And he told his story in his own words. It was really cool. Yeah, Jimmy told his story in his own way about his experience. So that way nobody could mess up his story and add to or take away. And I've lived 63 years now. Jimmy didn't get to live that long. Boy, imagine the music that would have went on. Wow, but that's okay. Anyway, so Jimmy inspired me to just say my story. 63 years of experience in every road I've walked and every horse I've ridden. It's going to be a distance. So I decided to do it in 13 chapters, a few hours a day, telling my experience and, my walk, my way. So forgive me, it's going to be a journey. Maybe I can get through it sooner than 13 days, 5 years a day, 3 hours a day, if that's a possibility. I'm going to wing it, but at least you'll have it from me. And it's just my experience. And it may offend many of thee. A lot of people may not agree with me. That's okay. It's not, their opinion of me is not my business, really. I'm doing this for posterity because who knows how long I'll be presently. So I'd like to share my story for whatever purposes while I have my coffee and see how it goes and share my story. Anyway, I remember picking my parents from above, looking down on Mother Earth, and I'm going to put my phone down so I can really speak. And if I have a smoke, forgive me. That's just where I be. I'm a human being. Bill Donahue was explaining today, most people, they do it anyway, they just don't show it. Or they want to, and shh, no, you're not supposed to, shh. Anyway. So, I'm going to try to go to 5 years old today. And I may take pauses and whatnot. Like I said, if I offend somebody, that's okay. I'm going to tell the truth, and a lot of people can't handle that. But I will change some names to protect the innocent. They'll know who they are. That's okay. I forgive them. I came for redemption. But I remember looking down from heaven. My mom took me on a past life regression when I was just a little bitty thing. And she said, tell me what heaven was like when you were there. What was it like, when you were up there? And I was just a little bitty, so it was easy. And I could see looking down on Mother Earth, beauty. And where's going to be your birth? That was going to have to be a very special place, obviously. And I was conceived cross-country when my dad was moving my mom and 2 brothers from New York to California. And my dad was from Ohio, Robert William Reider. And my mother, Patricia Stella Gravesmore, was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Stella Graves and Joseph Patrick Moore. Anyway, so I was conceived on the way. And, my mom had my 2 brothers. She had my brother David in Bellevue. He was born with a heart murmur, a real bad one. So he was a traumatic birth too. In Bellevue, that's a hospital. If you know anything about it, and my mom had special abilities and qualities, and my dad, wow, handsome devil. Anyway, so they had me in Oakland, California, right by the Naval Station, Providence Hospital, 2/18/63. at 6:37 a.m. exactly. And my mom and dad were living on 101st Street in Oakland, California. But getting back to I have to backstep, going back to before I came in. That's a whole nother equation. And I remember picking my mom and dad, my life experience, but I wasn't allowed to remember. It was a special thing I was assigned for, but it had to be special genetics and special parents in a special place. And, anyway, so, in 1963, I lived there till I was 2. In 1965, we moved to Walnut Creek. But in my growing up, I was born 3 months early, 3 ounces, 12 inches long, 3 months early, and Mom was having shock treatment when I came in. So I was literally born on lightning. I remember being born. I remember being in my mother. I don't want to skip ahead too quick. Might be stuff I don't cover. I don't want somebody else to say it different. Anyway, I remember being in my mother, the books she read, Jung, all the wisdom she studied, accounting, mathematics, and the arts, and music. Yeah, my mother was amazing, brilliant, incredibly smart. And I remember being in her, but I also remember the chaos. Mom was very, very depressed. And the first time she tried to kill herself because she didn't understand where she was with her abilities. And people didn't get her either. They didn't. People with clairvoyance and ESP and these things, people didn't understand them then. All they did was tranquilize them and brain shock them, and that's all they had for my mom. Give them pills and knock them out. That's all you could do. They didn't have a clue about, or if you did, you were kind of considered a witch. If you had special abilities, let's face it. You didn't quite fit in with society, but my mother's abilities were amazing. Truly. And my dad was in the Navy. And boy, he was, definitely Navy. And I remember my mom reading the books and coming out and how much it hurt. How much it hurt coming in. But it was a special assignment while I was brought in. Of course, I didn't remember the assignment then. I wasn't allowed to. Just came in and survival mode. Because Dad was a rager and Mom was sick. My mom really shouldn't have had kids, to be honest with you. I love her. She was so special, though. If they had understood her, they could have benefited from her wisdom. But they didn't. Anyway, she lived, and she couldn't take care of us, though. At all. And I remember my brother, and the reason I'm speaking to is because I've never been able to have a voice about these things, I have to say. I've never been able to speak about these things that happened to me and I experienced. I hope my experience and wisdom can inspire you in some way. Anyway, so it was a chaotic environment in my mom's house. Aunt Lil lived next door with her kids, my cousin John and my cousin Kira, and her husband John. Anyway, and she helped my mom with me and my brothers, and Violet and Tex, our other neighbors, helped take care of us because Mom was out. Mom needed all the help she could get, poor thing. It's really dead. And so Tex and Violet would come and get me, and Poncho and Princess, they were Chihuahuas, helped raise me until I was 2 or 3. And we moved to Walnut Creek. It's probably 66. I remember, because I was walking pretty good and stuff. But anyway, 65 or 66, we moved there. And it took me a long time to walk. And I was so little, everybody sat on me or didn't hear me because I had no lungs. I was so little, itty bitty. My dad called me California Raisinette. Yeah. So anyway, it was traumatic, and Mom being out of it. And, I was blessed to have Tex and Violet and my Aunt Lil and my cousins and John to look out for me. And my brothers. But Aunt Violet and Tex, my godparents, they took care of me a lot of the time. I was really blessed to have. Poncho helped teach me how to crawl and walk, chase him, and my first word was Poncho. Not Mama or Papa, Poncho, because he was my best friend. He was. Got me going, got me strong. Poncho. And anyway, so we moved to Walnut Creek, Bay Area, away from, Tex and Violet and my Aunt Lil. I think she moved to San Diego then, really. And so, moving to Walnut Creek, Mom still had her problems. And Dad was working hard, forgive me, smoking. This way I never have to tell the story again. I can say watch the video. There you go. Go to this part and that part. Yeah. So many hours a day, 3 hours a day for 13 days. I should be able to get it all out of my system, I pray. Chronologically. Anyway. And the Mount Diablo Valley. And the address is 2023 First Avenue. Walnut Creek, California, 94596. In a little cul-de-sac. Larky Elementary right there. And Larky Park. And the Alexander Lindsay Museum. I have videos on my Facebook. And Mount Diablo was incredible. But it was also a pit of evil. It wasn't called Mount Diablo for no reason, loves. And my dad was into all kinds of not nice nastiness. And he was not faithful to my mom. Took every woman on. The husbands too. My dad was not. He was Navy dude. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was a twisted pretzel, my dad was. My brother Clifford told me stories. That, he was part of what happened in sin. How the hearts of men bought into sin. And he was one of the worst of them. Dad was. I understood why. He wasn't. My dad didn't have a beautiful life growing up. So he would, lost his dad. World War II, never even saw him. And had to help Mom on the farm. The time he was born. In Ohio. In the hills. Shawnee Native American. Yeah. And Williamson Reider. And John Wayne Reider. And so Dad was really angry losing his dad, never even seeing him. And then his mom died of cancer, ovarian, when he was 13. And they took my Aunt Margaret and Uncle Richard and put him in an orphanage, a Catholic orphanage, because no family would have him, I guess. And my dad wasn't going to have that. And my Aunt Mary, my dad's older sister, No, my dad went and took his little brother and sister, even though they weren't blood, his little brother and sister, and got him out of there. He either had to go to jail or go to the Navy to get out of that. So he went in the Navy. And my Aunt Mary, she married Clifford Taylor in Straitsville, Ohio. And he took care of my Aunt and Uncle Richard and Margaret. He was good to him. That's why they named my brother Clifford after Cliff Taylor, for taking care of him. And, you know, Dad got Mom all right. And he was cheating on another woman. And this is kind of where it's kind of come to in the state of humanity, as I see my experience with my dad in the Mount Diablo Valley. You know, he ran the roller skating rink and he was a trucker. He built all the roads in the valley. A lot of them. And the Delta and the Mount Diablo. He took a lot of pride in that mountain. However, that mountain, that valley, California, and not just California, all over the nation, it was almost like it spread out from there. The degradation of morality in our country that I came in to bear witness to, that I didn't like, really. My experience. So if it's too much for you, some of the things I say, don't agree with me. This is doing my book my way. Because AI assistant, I still have to type and my hands really hurt me. Anyway, this is my way of saying my story, my way, with my face, plain as day. Another day I might look better, I don't know. But I need to get this out of me and tell the truth, because people have really misread me and misinterpreted me and misunderstood me. Most people were not exposed to esoteric knowledge in utero and born 29th degree Aquarius, Sun rising and Moon Sagittarius. Not many people have a chart like me. But then nobody's going to be born. Let's see who this is. Uno momento. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hey, this is Mark. I was actually just looking.
A bot. And that's what we've come to. Yeah. Fast forward to 2026, March 11th. Exactly 5:18 p.m. And yeah. So I grew up in the Mount Diablo, the shadow of in the valley, where the best cocaine flowed, the best drugs, the hottest chicks, the hippie skips. I was born in '63 when they took out Kennedy. Yeah, I remember that. I remember being 6 months old and everybody just falling apart. I mean, the shock in the nation. And I remember the whispers. There's more to this than meets the eye. And everybody's like, shh, it'll happen to you. Don't say anything. There's, more involved here behind the scenes. Yeah, it was awful. And then MLK, another shock to the nation. Just trying to get his civil rights for him and all Americans, not just our honorable black population, for all people Martin Luther King stood for. And the light of Christ, too. And he gave his life. They took him out, too. Then you have Robert Kennedy, Robert Fitzgerald. Yeah. And forgive me for smoking, but I'm not going to lie about who I am, or where I've been, or where I'm going. Because I know all the other suppression since then, they've been attacking our pineal and trying to keep us disconnected from our higher consciousness, to keep us in this loop trap. Yeah, if you're not connected to your higher consciousness, you can't ascend in consciousness. So if they program you and calcify your pineal and poison you with medicine and pharmaceuticals, well, it gives you no consciousness. You go no conscience. So you can do things unconsciously easily. Right? Yeah. So I saw that come in. I got the first flower child vaccine here on my arm. I don't know if you could see it, but it's right there. Yeah. The first flower child vaccine. And that's when vaccines came in. And they would line us up at school. I remember we would get vaccinated at school. And I had a good school, Larky Elementary. At least we got an education, not like today's kids. But anyway, so a lot was going on in Mount Diablo, and the spirit of Satan was running rampant. We had the hippies, we had the Vietnam War going on then, Ohio State. You know what? That was and a flower stopped that protest. A flower down the gun of a barrel on a Time magazine. Will you hand me that magazine behind you, Joey? Yeah. And today is a different Time magazine. That was Ohio State. It was an atrocity by the U.S. military. Children lost their life at Ohio University. At Ohio State. Yeah, it took a flower, and they were just there for peace and protesting the Vietnam War. But a flower went down the barrel and stopped. But that was going. Now it's time for Yeshua. Yeshua. Yes. In time. In Christ consciousness. Divine, but you're not going to find it in a church or anything. No matter what church you go to. The light of Christ is within you. In your consciousness. What they've tried to take away from us since '63 in these vaccines and experiments. Yeah. I remember being a little girl, and grays and tall ones would come and get me out of my mom and dad's window in Mount Diablo Valley. I slept walk until I was 7 or 8. Yeah, I would sleepwalk. Dead giveaway for somebody who's having universal brothers and sisters manipulate. I almost killed myself one time going off a balcony. Yeah, I was like 8. That's, yeah. My brother David saved me from going over that balcony sleepwalking. Yeah. Anyway, so I remember universals, and I did lots of life regressions with my mother. I went into a past life being running with the dinosaurs. Running, it was the first flash. And I remember the life regression. I was running through this grass. I was about, 3 or 4. I was sitting in Walnut Creek with my mom at the house. And I had a memory, like I was right there running, and the human beings were in the center, and then the smaller baby dinosaurs, and then the mama dinosaurs, and the grandmas, the older ones, and then the mamas and the bulls. And we were all running in one direction away from something. And the grass was tall, and the allergies, I remember the snot coming out of me. It was so much of it trying to run with it. And we were running away from this light that was coming at us. And it was almost like and this light overtook us. And we became in the light. It's like, oh, okay. That's over, thank goodness. Next. And that was a life regression click for me. I mean, and then coming in before, and seeing the earth and everything, that was, quite an experience. Remembering your past lives already at 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So it was quite a ride for me. And Mom taught me, transcendental meditation, esoteric knowledge, I Ching, Carl Jung, accounting. Yeah. So I had a lot of experience and exposure that most kids never had. I was grown up that it was natural. We studied it. A lot of people were just getting into it. Life regression, transcendental meditation, bilocation. Um, these kind of abilities. So it was natural for me. I was a kid. I was learning. My mother was teaching me for a reason. However, she did tell me not to share it with people. Don't say anything. Shh. There we go. Don't say anything. Shh. They don't need to know. You know. And my mom put up with my dad's chips for 13 years in Mount Diablo Valley. Yeah, and who didn't he do? But he always provided. But he loved to drink and he'd spend money, and oh my God, my mom and dad would have fights like unimaginable. Knockdown, drag-outs, and my dad was a rager. I'm just going up to 5 years old here, okay? And my dad looked at you and you wet yourself. You'd spot. I swear to God, my dad, like that. I'm not the only one who had a rager for a dad and had the military in him and the anger of that. My dad was still angry from losing his dad to the war in World War II. And they brought home all that technology and Nazism to America and polluted her granddaughter with it and created pharmaceuticals and petroleum products, and here we are today as a result of it. It's not pretty. But anyway, so my dad was very angry with the military, but he had the Navy, so he got a double whammy serving the military. And peeled a lot of potatoes and spent a lot of time in the brig. He punched his commanding officer trying to wake him up, but Dad was like that. You didn't wake him up, he'd come up swinging. He was just like that. But anyway, Mom and Dad, up to the time I was 5, we tried. We had a lot of fun. Roller skating rink, and we had a beautiful home, beautiful schools, beautiful parks. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't. I grew up in a beautiful, beautiful place. And then it had its downfalls. There was the Mount Diablo, where that current of Satan was coming in and spreading through the nation, and the Democratic Party, because the Democrats were really big in California. Then they were coming up. Dianne Feinstein and all that after Kennedy's Harvey Milk, and that assassination with the the compound. Yeah. In Guyana, where everybody drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah, so much has happened, darlings. It's difficult for me just to keep it under 5 years old because, other pieces in time come into play. I'm just going to do it my way. It's the only way I know how. Anyway, the roller skating rink was great, and Main Street was awesome. And so I grew up in a really beautiful place, but there was a very wicked undercurrent there that was already growing in the Bay Area, Walnut Creek. Yeah. And it grew very, very quickly once the BART system went in. But, up to 5 years old, because I'm trying just to stay there from birth to 5 years old. I drowned one time, almost. I mean, my mom pulled me out from the bottom of the pool just in time. Her friend wasn't watching. I remember looking up at the light, though. I remember that. Looking up at the light. And my mom got me just in time. I was terrified of water from that time on. Until I was a lifeguard. I finally overcame it by becoming a lifeguard. But it took me a long time to overcome that fear of water after that. And my brother David fed me glass. He was trying to feed me. My mom wouldn't get up. And I was starving. So Dave broke a bottle of baby food to feed me, but he fed me the glass at the same time. I remember how long it took for my mouth to heal up from that. I was just a little thing. Maybe 6 months old or something like that. Yeah. My brother David and I had a poo-poo party once because Mom was so out of it. We just poop all over us. We painted our face, war paint, painted the crib, painted everything. Mom, a lot of times it's absentee. She did her best, but she couldn't be not on tranquilizers and stuff like that in a way. My poor mom. Anyway. Even when she was there, she wasn't there, really. And it was really, I remember a lot of being afraid when I was a kid. Don't cry, I'll give you something to cry about. And, and I wish it wasn't that way, but hey, so many kids have suffered since I've come up and seen and where this is all going. My story, because it's not about me. It's about a trend that has happened in humanity in the spirit of Satan. And how they, have manipulated in my personal story to show how it changed all of us. With vaccines, getting my social security number, the new technology that came in from, because I remember watching, TV with Kennedy, and we had a black and white TV, and I was the bunny ears when I got old enough to be, and go from that immediately. I think by the time I was 5, we were in color. I'm not sure, and the moon landing and everything. Twilight Zone, Dark Shadows, programming. From the time I was a baby. How things should be and what you should be like, or, what to be afraid of and what not to be. And this fear factor. And I'm going, where am I? I am not like this. I do not like fear. I like peace and harmony and singing and music and coloring and, not this dark stuff you're showing me. It was awful, really. And they like scary stuff, and they like to do stuff that just didn't resonate with me. I'm like, I'm a light child. This does not feel good to me. It does not, really. And before my 5th birthday in Walnut Creek, my Uncle Gilbert got my dad's Navy buddy, Uncle Gilbert, not by blood, cousin. And Dad had him, watching me and my brothers. And he was a homo monkey, and he was my dad's butt monkey from the Navy. Let's just be honest about it. And he attacked my brother David. Repeatedly this happened to my brother David. I can imagine what happened to my brother Clifford. Rest his soul. I know he was messed up to the maximus, though. For some reason they did this. I don't know. My dad partook in it, but David and Gilbert going after David like he did. Time again. And he got to me too, which messed up my whole life in a lot of ways. But anyway, there's that spirit of Satan, right? And he almost killed my brother David, suffocated him to death. I had to pull him out from underneath him. And I was only like 4. Yeah, I had to save my brother David. And no kid should have to go through that. But there was an undercurrent in Mount Diablo that was like that. When first, people screwed up sexually. Kids that I saw that were messed up sexually. Even me, but my mother taught me to do my stuff privately. You don't let anybody touch it. Take care of that yourself, take care of your business. Be fresh, wash yourself, and go on with your business. You respect your body. You don't just let anybody touch it. My mother taught me very well. But it doesn't mean it didn't happen. People didn't take advantage of me. And my dad even tried. My brothers messed with me in some respects. It's not fun for me. It was awful. An undercurrent of You want to do what to me? And some families I found out in Mount Diablo Valley, they go along with that stuff. I'm like, what? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, where am I? And it's almost like a normality. But it's all behind the scenes, you know? They act all normal on the outside, but behind the scenes, man, they're like getting jiggy with their kitties. I'm like, oh, yes. Yeah. It's really sick. And then all the drugs going through all that area from, you know, the hippies and all that. Haight-Ashbury's. Stuff only up till the time I was 5 years old. Yeah. 1968, I was 5. And all that stuff was going on. GTOs and Camaros and Hemis and, you know, hot rods. Lots of drugs and stuff from Vietnam. And the only way they could get a lot of those guys to do those missions is if they were totally high or drunk or whatever. And Vietnam was no fun. That was up until I was 5 or so, 6, 7. Too long was Vietnam, and Kennedy wanted to stop it. Moneymakers were going to have it. And as I saw it in retrospect, George W. Bush Sr., or is that George H. Bush Sr., was the magic bullet on the grassy knoll that day. And it was the CIA, and we all know that from the Kennedy releases. But people aren't even paying attention to the Kennedys. What happened to John F. Kennedy? They're too busy looking at Epstein and all the people on the list. Everybody was on that list. A lot of people. Everybody who was somebody. And that's, you see, this is, you know, till I was 5 years old. And this is jumping forward a little bit, but it's the same kind of mentality that was going on in Mount Diablo Valley. And I'm not blaming it all on Mount Diablo Valley, no. I wouldn't blame it just on one place. Talking about an imbalance of mentality in the human race and the accumulation coming up to this point, which is why I was born when I was born as a 29th degree Aquarian to see this culmination and remember it and experience it and have people try to no people, you know, how many ways can you kill somebody, crucify somebody and hurt somebody and take everything away and give them disease that, yeah, I've had to fight to stay alive since I came out, no jive. So in the 70s, you know, the 60s and 70s, we got the great drugs and the cocaine and the Al Pacinos and the actors and, you know, and all this, you know, good drugs and good cannabis, but laws against it. You'd be arrested for cannabis or cocaine, but it was out there. Yeah. And people were, you know, here you go. And people went into it. There was a lot of dysfunction. Everybody was getting divorced. That was the new thing. You know, I'm trying to stay below 5. That's going into 7 or 8 for me, so I'm skipping. Sorry. I don't, you know, I want to get the story correct in context as much as I can because I rabbit in other places. But and then, you know, by the time I was 5, I saw all the, you know, the Disneys, the Snow Whites, the Cinderellas. I grew up on Disney, of course, which wasn't such a great thing. It sold kids a fantasy that someday somebody was going to rescue them, to look outside themselves to be rescued, instead of learning how to rescue themselves and protect themselves from not nice, nasty narcissists like wicked witches, because they are out there with flying monkeys, metaphorically speaking, and physically in this existence there are. However, they always teach you someone's going to come and save you and rescue you. And they never teach you to rescue yourself. They never teach you to know yourself. They never teach you to look outside yourself for rescuing. look inside. Sorry, they're always teaching you to look outside yourself for things to rescue you. So anyway, all the, Cinderellas and the Snow Whites and all that, it's all a bunch of fairy tales. But metaphorically speaking, according to Carl Jung, now I get it in retrospect. But yeah, and I always had, how do I say it? I always felt loved and different, and I would, in kindergarten, I wouldn't paint a tree. I would paint different colors on top of different colors on top of different colors. It was pretty. It looked like heaven to me. The teacher said, "That's not drawing, that's just scribbling." No, that's heaven. That's heavenly. And this is the first time I've ever really told my story, because I don't want to say it again, personally. This way I can rest and get it out of my system, knowing that I've told my story. It's good, best of my ability, chronologically. So when I was about 4 years old, I'm at the skating rink, and I'm skating around in a little dress, all pretty. My mom handmade me dresses, beautiful dresses. She was a great seamstress and a cook too. And I'm skating around the rink, my little dress, and there's this kid, this bully, who trips me, right? And this kid falls in front of me. My dad's running the roller skating rink from the DJ, from the music box and stuff, watching everything. And this kid trips me, and then his toe stop smacks me right in my two front teeth, man. Smack, right? Oh, God. Blood everywhere, gushing out my face. It was awful. And because he was jealous of me, he tripped me. Yeah. I wasn't paying attention where his foot was going. And I swallowed one tooth, and the other one went flying. Dad cleared the rink immediately and got rid of that. Oh boy, did he talk to his mother. He never came back. Anyway, so I sucked on missiles for the rest of the night to stop the bleeding and numb the pain. But I went into kindergarten with no front teeth. Yeah, my kindergarten picture was... And I had to go for 3 years with no two front teeth. And I kept sucking my thumb. They couldn't get me to stop sucking my thumb. That was my num-num. And they say, "Oh, you're going to have buck teeth." And they put mustard on it, horseradish, vinegar, everything to get me not to suck my thumb. It wasn't good. You're going to have buck teeth. I didn't end up with buck teeth. No. That's what they told me. They even kicked me out of ballet school because I wouldn't stop sucking my thumb. It was my security. So I was weird. Anyway. So yeah, that was traumatic for me to go all those years without my two front teeth. I still have trouble with my S's and my C's. Yeah. And that was a traumatic thing. When I was 3, I think it was right after we moved to Walnut Creek, my mom was gardening in the front yard. She wasn't watching me. And they had 409 there, but it was called Swipe. And so let me see, I was drowned. Well, yeah. And anyway, I drank this bottle of 409, half of it. Kept waiting for it to taste good. It was the weirdest dang thing. And I'm going, "Mom, can I have this blueberry soda?" "Sure, you have that blueberry soda." "Okay. It's gotta taste good sooner or later, right?" "It doesn't taste good yet. It's supposed to be blueberry. It looks like blueberry soda, but it doesn't taste like blueberry soda." And before I realized it, or she did, I drank half that bottle. That shit. CHIT, I'm not cussing. Oh my God. And I was just a little thing to begin with. My mom should have been watching. She wasn't. And I was puking up. And next thing I remember, my dad and mom were hauling to the hospital, and I was throwing up all over the place. I was throwing my guts up. And they got me in the hospital, put a bunch of black charcoal down me, and threw up, and hey, she's either going to make it or she's not. So they took me home, put me on the couch, and God, my mom never prayed so hard in her life for anything. It saved me, and I remember going out. And I remember the priest coming to pray for me, give me my last rites. Very close to out with the lights. Boom, boom, out go the lights, yeah. Yeah. Mom had to take a hit for that, for not watching us again. Not paying attention. I guess it's like with my kids, I got to be a little overbearing, a little overprotective, because I wasn't protected. So anyway. Yeah, I did survive that. It killed, you know, killed me for, oh God, it was awful. And I went to the bathroom, and I went to take a poop. It was the first time I could go do anything, and I was wiping, and all these worms came out of me, dead maggots. Oh, and forgive me, but it's the truth. It really happened to me. Scared dead chips out of me. Let me tell you what. Ah! But that was all the 409 I drank. It killed everything in my body. So everything came out of me. And it was not pretty. And I'm really glad that I'm talking about this, because these are some pretty hairy experiences that most kids don't live through or go through. A lot do. Some do. Some will resonate with my story and what I went through. And if my enduring or my tenacity can encourage you that, you know, that it can be done in some way, and, you know, it's okay. I don't know. I think I'm doing this more for me, because I was never given a voice, you see. I was always told this, shh, don't say. Just obey. What am I up to? 47 minutes already. It's going to be a long book. 13 hours long. If I do an hour a segment, it'd be 13 hours to listen to it. That's a long story for any movie. Wouldn't you say at 47? Anyway, God got us through it. And I survived it by the grace of God Almighty. And Mom would try to, I remember my hardest memories, I got to share it. She would play dead on the bed, and she had tried to commit suicide many times still, after I was born. And she would play dead on the bed. And she'd be out, me and David, you know, in Walnut Creek, we'd be 2 or 3, you know, 3 or 4 actually, and we're shaking her, Mom, Mom, Mom. She's like, you know. And she'd wake up, she'd go, bah, it'd scare us. It was, you know, that kind of sick stuff you don't do to kids. No, not if you love. Not that you love. You don't do that to them. So hopefully 13 hours will cover it. You know, I'll try to do each year in an hour segment. That's just my story. You know, this way nobody can call me crazy. It's experientially. Confirmation. Yeah. And I'm not alarmed. This is just what happened. A lot of people aren't allowed to tell their story. This gives me an opportunity to finally have a voice my way. Anyway. And I remember my grandmother singing to me when she saw me as a baby in Oakland, California, in my buggy. I was like 6 months old or something like that. And she sang me the song Eternigine. You are my past, my present, and my future. You are my hope supreme. Eternigine. I've got it on my YouTube channel. And I can refer a lot of stuff to my YouTube channel, which is really good. That'll help us cut to the chase. But anyways, yeah, with UAPs and interdimensionalies, and I was exposed to this. We all were, like with Twilight Zone, and Outer Limits. That weird things happen. We can't explain this. So they were giving us hints that weird stuff was going to happen. We weren't going to be able to understand. Totally, man. Yeah. I've got 14 minutes left. 14 and a half. So, let's sum up my first 5 years of my life. It was intensity, and it was fun, too. I had good times with my dad and mom. Fishing and Delta and going to the beach and having barbecues in Walnut Creek. But there was that undercurrent of darkness, lurking. And I thought, gosh, man, I just don't fit in here. I'm not like this. My brothers used to sit on my face and fart on my face if I didn't watch Twilight Zone or Outer Limits or Dark Shadows. And then they came out, but that's after 5. Anyway, yeah, if I didn't watch this stuff, I'd get in trouble. It's weird. And the way they acted and were mean to me, everybody, was mean to me. And I was a little love bug. I was. All I wanted was love. And if I cried, hey, don't cry. I'll give you something to cry about, believe me. And my dad worked as hard, building the pool. And, there was always work to do. My dad was, always work to do. And we did. And my dad was a hard laborer and worked really hard to take care of us. Really hard. All the walnut trees got a disease, and he went and had to cut all the walnut trees. And that's hardwood to cut. So my dad, he drove us hard. And my mom was a great cook, and in a lot of ways, she wasn't depressed all the time. She was magnificent. Great cook, sewer, girls or Boy Scouts, My mom was a go-getter, too. She wasn't sick all the time. She was a very functional Irish woman, very strong. When we had her. When she wasn't overwhelmed by my dad's, rage or alcohol or, going spending all the money at the bar. Or having an affair. My dad was never, he was not faithful to my mother. It was a really good example for when I grew up, right? And my dad was a rager, man. Oh my God. So angry. Never seen somebody with such temper. My thumb is the size of my dad's pinky. And when you got hit with it, believe it, you knew it. Yeah, his pinky was this big. He crushed men's skulls with his hands. He could do it. In fact, I heard rumors maybe he did or two. I don't know. I wasn't there, dude. I wasn't even there. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we got hit with. And if I told the truth, snitched Dave out or Clifford out or whatever, I told the truth what happened, then I'd be okay. But if I did something bad and I told the truth, I wouldn't sit down for 3 days. I was going to feel it, believe me. But that's if I told the truth, I got 3 days. If I tried to lie to my dad, and he knew or found out, he would know right away, though. So you better tell the truth. But, I tried twice. Yeah. You didn't sit down and do nothing for 3 weeks with that man. Believe me. My brother's bullwhips, everything. Oh, Dad had it. One cry, all cry. My dad would get home from a long day of trucking. My mom would say, here's the report. Lori did this, Clifford did that, David did that. Or somebody did this. And I didn't do it. They did it, but nobody would admit it. Everybody say, no, I didn't do it. And Dad had a policy. One cry, all cry. If nobody admits it, everybody gets it. Yeah. And believe me, we all cried quite a bit. One time, I remember, I think my brother was about 6. I was coming right about 5 years old, because I'm coming up on my time. And my brother, David just got done raking the leaves, making a pile. And he jumped in and played. He was going to rake him again, but before he got there, Dad went up and just cold cocked him and spun him like a top. Right in the front yard, right in front of me. Just for playing a little bit. That was my dad. But he was also at the same time so brilliant. Could paint, new trucks, art, leatherwork, carving, barbecue, bricklaying, cement work. There was nothing my dad couldn't do. He was really quite brilliant. It's true. That was a weird part. All of us have that dualistic chips about us. Good parts and bad parts, I guess. Anyway, I saw this undercurrent driving through the valley, Mount Diablo Valley, and this darkness setting in with the hippies and the flower children, and that's coming up at 5. I was 5 years old. And so many other things happened, but anyway, that's the first 5 years. I'm not going to iterate it again, so if you have any questions, sweetvictory1963 at gmail. And yeah, and thanks for the listen. If you've listened this far, blessings be with you. And my first song, by the way, was Away in the Manger, that I sang for a church when I was about 2 years old. And I always had a light with Christ. Yeah, and that's why I didn't get the darkness. Right? I got a few minutes. And that's my experience. My chart is very interesting. I was meant to come in for this. And then all the puzzle pieces start clicking as we go. See, it's the last few minutes. It seems like forever. I'm trying to think of what to say. I'm just winging it anyway. For posterity. All of me, what you see is what you get. It's not pretty, but it's authentic. It's genuine. I was a lot prettier like 45 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Anyway, it's been a long ride, and this is just a show anyway. And, however this can be documented for posterity, let it be. This is Heavenly's will, not mine, really. I just did this by inspiration of Jimi Hendrix. Totally, because that's what he did. He did his own book, kind of like this. Really cool. So, yeah. I'm going to fly here in just 2 minutes or so. Heaven willing. So, 57:57. Yeah, I see timestamps now. All the time. Because it is time. And my gematria says that. Yeah. And the Mount Diablo. Yeah. And growing up in the shadow of that mountain, there was the spirit of Satan going out. They turned the flower children into free love and getting jiggy and getting shaggy. Yeah, we're going into that chapter next, sadly. But up to 5, hey, I loved my school, Larky Elementary and Larky Park. It was beautiful. It's like the best of both worlds. Not the best and worst of both worlds, really, as far as I see. And, yeah, now we're at a complete circle. According to my astrology, I just had my Diamond Jubilee, turned 63. Yeah. Very blessed abundantly. Because God's got me through all this to finally come back to me. Totally. And I'm going to upload this to YouTube and then erase it. Hopefully they can hold it in the datas. And yeah, I'm grateful. Grateful for the journey. Grateful how I've grown. Grateful for what I've learned. Grateful for what I've known. And what I know now that I didn't know then. Wish I hadn't been so ignorant and blonde and stuff, but it had to be that way too, loves. There's a purpose in everything, right? Right, class? Absolutely. And I love all of you totally. I send my love and light your way. Christ consciousness. It's here to stay. So lighten up to your higher nature. Love you, loves.